I'm Javier. My talk is entitled Reimagining Food Systems, From Charity to Solidarity. In 1966, the Black Panther Party was founded in Oakland, California. Through community fundraising and organizing, they birthed a series of survival programs to meet the material needs of communities drowning in structural oppression and poverty. By the end of 1969, the most famous of these Panther programs, Free Breakfast for Children, was feeding 10,000 children across the country daily. Survival programs were distinct because they were based on cooperation instead of competition, interdependency instead of individualism. They found a way to challenge the poverty of capitalism through the social organization and solidarity of their own communities. My summer research took me to the birthplace of Free Breakfast for Children, the food deserts of Oakland, California, where many residents without grocery stores and farmers markets can't get enough calories or nutrients to sustain a healthy life. In response to growing hunger rates in the US in the past 2 decades, the nonprofit organizations have become major actors. Today, the nonprofit sector is growing faster than all other areas in our economy. As our primary tool in addressing poverty and the failures of the market, the nonprofit trend needs to be looked at critically. As nonprofit organizations and the practice of charity become a part of the formal economy, we're seeing an influx of private capital and young professionals hoping to make a career out of poverty. We see nonprofits ruthlessly competing with other nonprofits. We see CEOs making fortunes off of feeding people. The spaces that were intended to free people from the suffering of capitalism are being colonized by the very ideology that made them necessary in the first place. We have to wonder, how can we truly end hunger through charity if we do nothing to challenge the power relations and structural causes of hunger? This summer, I started exploring this question by looking at nonprofits in East Oakland. I wondered if today's small nonprofit orgs were comparable in practice to the Black Panther survival programs, and that they intimately engage with communities to create autonomous spaces. Despite my thesis being highly critical of today's charities, as you now know, out of my experience came a compromise. My research question today asks, how can nonprofit orgs use their existing charity spaces, namely food pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters, to transform the local food system through a solidarity-based model? In my research, I conducted interviews, participant observation, group discussions, and volunteer work with the Feed My Sheep Food Pantry, a young organization currently applying for nonprofit status. Today, I will talk about the challenge of fostering solidarity in charity food spaces. As opposed to the traditional top-down handout model of charity, solidarity is defined as an interdependent horizontal relationship that extends beyond economic relations into shared struggles and shared purpose. As of today, 1 in 6 people in the US is food insecure. That's 50 million. It's hard to believe that such severe hunger could exist in the world's wealthiest economy. Yet with every passing crisis, these contradictions become more clear. But it is in places like East Oakland, where poverty meets food-scarce geographies, that hunger and undernourishment are the most concentrated. In my fieldwork, I saw people react to charity with a wide range of emotions. But displays of anger, shame, and reluctance are most relevant to this talk because they hinder solidarity. Joe Ferlat, an administrator of the Berkeley Food and Housing Project, witnesses the daily reality of angry charity recipients. He says, the sad part is that the anger is acted out against the people that are giving it to them. It's a misguided projection of these feelings that they have. I saw this anger firsthand while working at the Feed My Sheep Food Pantry in East Oakland in late July. As a way of preventing overuse by single households, the pantry requires ID to prove addresses, one client per household. It's to make sure everybody gets an equal share. A man who did not have proper ID for the second time was not allowed inside. Outside, the man began yelling, "I'm hungry, I need food," and referring to a woman inside the pantry, "You help that Mexican, but not me?" Inside, clients overhearing shook their heads. Eventually, the director, Faye Gabriel, calmly told the man to leave, but not before directing him towards another nonprofit that did not require ID. Misguided projections, as Joe calls them, is an accurate description. A study published in 2009 found that every day in the United States, nearly half of all excess consumable food is wasted, while 50 million people go hungry. This man's anger, and the anger of millions like him, is not because the people working the charity have failed. It is because there is something intuitively wrong with the model of charity flourishing in such a productive political economy that very well can, but does not feed everyone. In addition to anger, sometimes shame discourages a person from even visiting the charity space. In early July, I spoke to a 56-year-old woman who worked full-time standing on her feet. Despite experiencing periods of chronic food insecurity since 2008, she refused to receive charity food. In a phone interview, she told me, "I just can't go there to stand in line. You feel like, I don't know, kind of embarrassed? You think, maybe someone I know will see me standing in line." This woman's feelings are well-grounded. A drive around East Oakland on a Friday afternoon will reveal a series of sidewalk lines, of people standing in the hot sun in silent anticipation for bread, strawberries, and canned goods. Everyone in this room has experienced standing in line, but nothing in the consumer experience is comparable to standing in line for bread in a hot summer or a bitter winter. In this kind of a line, one stands vulnerable. There's nobody standing beside you in solidarity or compassion. Your peripheral view might catch the passing of traffic on the boulevard, of eyes looking in pity at those who cannot feed themselves. If traditional charity is the medicine for a broken system, then these emotional responses are its negative side effects. This woman's testimony that she would rather experience food insecurity than humiliation is reason to critically examine how nonprofits operate. So I ask my question: how can we adopt a solidarity-based approach within existing charity spaces to make them less psychologically problematic in the short run and more structurally transformative in the long run? During my days volunteering at the Feed My Sheep food pantry, I was happy to see a different kind of charity space than what is traditionally seen. After checking in at the office, people would sit and wait in the common room with chairs arranged in a half circle. They would eat cookies, drink coffee, and chat until their assigned number was called. Then a volunteer, usually from the same community, walks through the pantry with them to give them guidance and compassion for their personal struggles. Instead of a predetermined brown bag of food, clients are able to pick items that best suit their needs and preferences. Faye Gabriel, the director, explains that we take the stigma out of charity by making clients feel like people. To do this kind of work, you need to have it in here. It's more than just giving out food. You have to have a listening ear. You have to be there for them. This model has gotten attention from the Alameda County Food Bank. Faye hopes that other pantries adopt this method of food distribution. Creating this therapeutic communal space reduces the alienation that comes with our society's emphasis on individualism and competition. Most importantly, by moving beyond just charitable economic transactions, the Feed My Sheep food pantry enables social transactions, namely the sharing of stories, of shared struggles, and of shared purpose, the very basis of solidarity. Two feminist scholars, Julie Graham and Katherine Gibson, extend upon this line of argument in their book entitled The Post-Capitalist Politics. They write, "The cultivation of the self offers a potential to enable participation in creative and innovative forms of collective action. Small things, like having a genuine conversation with a client, reaffirm the self-worth and human dignity that traditional charity may take away. This space allows people to start a discourse, which is unheard of in silent red lines. It gets people talking, which is the first step in producing new ideology and forms of collective action that may finally start challenging the causes of hunger. Now, I cannot say with confidence what the alternative food system will look like. Not yet, at least. Today, I discussed the possible sites, or rather, the soil, where the roots of a new system may be planted. Huey Newton, the founder of the Black Panther Party, thought extensively about the very question I am exploring. Listen to what Huey Newton writes in his book entitled "To Die for the People." He writes, "Survival programs were designed to help people survive until their consciousness is raised, which is only the first step in the revolution to produce a new America. During a flood, the life raft is a life-saving device, but it is only a means of getting to higher ground. So too with survival programs. In themselves, they do not change social conditions, but they are life-saving vehicles until conditions change." Unquote. Newton understood the necessity of short-term action to challenge suffering in his community. He calls them emergency services because their response must be swift and powerful, but ultimately only a means to an end. What would he say of today's nonprofit organizations, which have made charity the end goal? There are ways to transform our hunger alleviation programs. Through organizational methods that respect dignity, as seen in the Feed My Sheep food pantry, we may be able to fight the negative side effects that accompany charity. By starting a discourse of shared struggle and shared purpose, nonprofits may become a reflection of the community's will to organize, survive, and challenge the causes of hunger. But most importantly, as we engage with poverty, we must be critical of how our thoughts and actions contribute to a nonprofit world that does not value interdependency and cooperation. This internal contradiction is our biggest obstacle. But if we truly wish to end hunger and poverty, we must consider the alternative, economic and ideological system waiting in the horizon. Thank you.